Board is now called to order at 4:03 p.m. on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. The board members are present here at the Tallahassee Room in City Hall, along with members of the public and on Zoom. With the assistance of the Communications Department and the Information Technology Department, this meeting is live streamed on the Ethics Board website, and we are recording it for future reference. There is a delay with online communications, and we should all be patient. As always, we thank those members of the City of Tallahassee for their support. For those attending the meeting online, please make sure your microphones are muted. We ask the public to email ethics@talgov.com if they wish to speak online on agenda or non-agenda items. Those who have submitted their names will be allowed to speak as scheduled. Has anyone submitted their names? No? Okay. While the meeting is in progress, please do not speak during the board's discussion. We have set aside 2 places on the agenda for the public to speak. For those who wish to make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and forward that to the administrative specialist, Ms. Tasker Leverson Green. Be sure to state what you wish to speak about on the form. Public speakers will be given up to 3 minutes in accordance with the board's bylaws. So next, let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tasker of the roll call.
Kirsten Costa, Patrick Kelly, Rika Calhoun,
Here.
Adam Commissar,
Here.
Caroline Clanky,
Here.
Mary Alice David.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Yeah. A motion? So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, say nay. Okay. So moved. Next, we are on to public comment on agenda items.
None.
Have someone who raised their hand?
Oh, I didn't
Do they just fill out the form?
Yeah.
Just tell us what items you're addressing.
It's a, I thought she said non-agenda.
No, these are agenda.
Does non
This is
go at the
public
end?
comment on agenda items.
Yes, no move.
Okay, well, let me make it agenda and I'll fit it in, yeah. Is there a pen?
So there is a section on, for public comment on non-agenda items, so if you wanted to wait until that.
No, I got another meeting across the street.
Okay.
And you want me to speak now and I'll fill the card out afterwards, or do you want to wait? I don't want to hold
If
y'all
it's on
up.
agenda items, then now you can have the floor and fill out your form after.
Okay. I don't have my glasses. My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 32. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way.
Mhm.
I'm coming for the, I'm trying to switch my wording up now, is I'm very apprehensive about engaging with this municipality. It is already deemed and labels me as aggressive. And we are under litigation, and I don't want to go into that. But what I'm concerned about is, and I've shared this with the ethic office.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. What is it? What is the agenda item you're referencing?
I get, and I don't have my glasses, but it stuff says legislative actions.
Okay.
And what I'm addressing is our legislators now are asking our police department to work with our ICE agents. And I'm concerned that in the article that I read that our city attorney didn't even know that there was a memorandum of agreement between the TPD, or she didn't know the details. And this ain't Washington, D.C. President Trump got Elon. He's not an elected official. He's doing a whole, but we don't even know who the city manager is getting his legal opinions from, especially with my current issues with TPD. Would they target me? Because, ma'am, I heard on television, you can even have your papers and be deported. And it's happened. I'm concerned. I'm also concerned that whenever I try to bring my point up in the most humblest way I know how, and I'm trying, I get Mayor Pro Tem comes back when I'm not even at the podium and just lashes aggressively at me. I don't want to subject myself to that. My goal this year, and I shared it with the ethics office, is to speak without the interpretation of being demeaning, rude, and to listen without the interpretation of judgment. When I went before the city commission the last time, I went because I was concerned about the ethics office and you guys. Because yeah, just those titles alone, ma'am, puts a target on their back. I had a very productive conversation with the city manager. Mayor Pro Tem has even directed staff for them not to even put my communications to her. I'm just saying, and I see this yellow button, I think it's unfair, and excuse me for this, that the Mayor Pro Tem can sit up on the dais and dog me out, misinterpret my message. She made it look like I was throwing a slam at the city of Tallahassee, and that wasn't the case. It wasn't the case. She not only did that to me, but she did that to the city Madlow and Porter. And I shouldn't be punished because I view them as my friend. And I don't want ICE coming after me because they partnered with TPD. We don't even know what that partnership and thank you for your grace. And I won't go any further.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No.
And next we'll go to, so you just need to fill out the form subsequent
Oh,
for the
I'm
record.
sorry.
Okay. And then next we'll go to the ethics office report.
Thank you. This is a report for February 11th, 2025 through March 10th, 2025. During this period, we continue to deliver ethics training to new employees, including a special session for firefighters. And I had a one-on-one session for an employee who works part-time in the evenings, and that was the only time he could take the training. Came from the county. And I mentioned him because I was very impressed with his perspective on ethics. And it was a very good training session. We are working on the annual ethics course, and we're actually ahead of schedule with that. Very pleased with how it's going. We performed administrative duties and responded to complaints. Our expenditures are as written, with the monthly cell phone, a new nameplate for our newest member, and then for legal services. And that came to about $3,751.31. Not about, but that's what it came to. Our budget, we continue to be steadfast with our budget. We started with $63,829,000, and we are at $274,238. I'm well into the fiscal year, so we continue to be fiscally responsible because I am a penny pincher. Monthly, if you're tracking, we have known complaints, and the way I differentiate between ethics complaints and referrals, we do get complaints, but they end up being referrals. If someone gives me a written sworn complaint, then I categorize that as a complaint. But if it's not a sworn complaint, then I don't put it under that category. Received one call from a person in Carabel referencing an incident there, and I explained to them that it's not jurisdiction. And that is our report.
And I'd like to take a point of personal privilege, Chair, if I could, to close out my little section here. And welcome our newest member, Mary Alice David.
I appreciate that I was selected and I'm looking forward to serving with you. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. And I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the general update.
And the only thing in general update, like I said, we're working on the training. If any of you would like to give input to the training, just let me know and I'll send it to you because we've already started laying it out. I'm actually using an AI voice this year. You can't tell the difference. It only cost me $20. So, you know,
Are you using 11 Labs?
I looked at that one, but I ended up using something else, natural something. I forgot the name of it, but I found a voice that sounds like a city employee in my mind, because I wanted something relatable. So this person is not perfect, but they're relatable. So you can tell whether you like it or not, because we can always spend more money. But $20, I'm very happy with it. So anybody wants to, I was going to delegate upwards and ask you.
Absolutely.
So I would suggest 11 Labs, because 11 Labs will actually clone your voice. And it is about the same price point.
Yeah, they both do it.
Oh,
But
we did use that for FAMU's training this year.
okay. And it's amazing, really.
Oh my goodness, it's incredible.
Because they try to account for emotions. I see how they do it because they use phrasing a lot, and it really works. Because the same thing you do when you're speaking, you use phrasing and breaks and to emphasize it. And so it really, you'd be surprised. So we'll see how it goes. But so you're volunteering too?
Oh, okay, yeah.
She always looks at it and does a good job. So I'll send it to both. Anybody else want to look at it? You know? All right, great. Send it to you. Other than that, we did meet with Attorney Mary Alice Davis and told her everything about each one of you. No, just kidding. Coined her.
You did, instead of Davis.
Did I say Davis?
That's okay.
See, I can't get away with it. Usually when Tasker corrects me, I say, well, that's what I said.
Leave it on your clone voice.
Okay, well, we did have a good session and I hope we got you off to a good start.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Thank you very much. Next, we have review of board recommendations. Mr. Reed.
Yes, so this should be a review for most of you. We had agreed last year that we would get through the election and then we would propose to the city commission our draft ordinances to see what they will agree to move forward with. I want to just review those. Draft ordinance 24 RD01 and 02 were the proposed ordinances dealing with the gift prohibition, and it resulted from an advisory opinion that we were requested regarding a scavenger hunt through a radio station that happened to be a city vendor, to see if there was any way that we could try to get around that, since it did seem to be a worthwhile event. And we also said that, you know, the way that the local ordinance and the ethics code is written, like the state code, it would also include if somebody were to do a telethon with WFSU, et cetera. So We did propose two alternatives. Ultimately, it was staff's recommendation that we reject both, because while we could find a way to carve out an exception at the local level, we could not do so at the state level. And we felt that that could create a false sense of security and could lead somebody astray and inadvertently get them into trouble. So we did agree to just let those two go, and that was the board's decision. The next is draft ordinance 24 ORD03. This dealt with the covered individual. We took some of the requirements and split them up. We had whether somebody files a financial disclosure under state statute or whether they have purchasing authority exceeding $35,000. We separated that just to show that it's an either or. We also, most significantly, is we rewrote the language on who's considered a public official to ensure that everybody on this board falls into the same category as every other board member within the city. The way the ordinance is written, the only individuals subject to the local ethics code are board members appointed by the city commission, and only one of you is appointed by the city commission, so that left 6 of you out in the cold. So we just rewrote it so it now includes all boards within the city of Tallahassee. And then the last, and that was recommended to go to the city commission. And then draft ordinance 24 ORD04. This essentially takes what's already in state law and brings it into the local code. That's in 112.313. There's subsection 3, which is doing business with one's agency, subsection 7, which is conflicting employment and contractual relationships. And then there are exemptions to both of those under subsection 12. So we essentially mirrored that language, and that was as a result of another advisory opinion that we spent a number of meetings reviewing, where an individual wanted to engage in an LLC as a member or an owner of the LLC, who would then do business with the city. And we did urge them not to do it, but we said currently there is nothing under our local code that prohibits it, although we did say you need to definitely look at state law before you move forward. But he or she did ensure that they were not going to move forward. But we did feel that to avoid any type of confusion going forward, we really need to codify some form of the doing business with and the conflicting employment and contractual relationship statutes into our local code, so there would be no confusion. This was an issue that was proposed by this board in 2019 when we did the huge rewrite, but there were so many issues that this one didn't make it through. So I think it's been 5 years. I think we can give it another try. So this board did recommend that we send that along to the city commission. So that is all I have on those 4 draft ordinances, 2 which will be forwarded to the city commission.
And the next step is for the staff, for meeting with the city attorney, to get their position and discuss it. So there's total clarity when we go before the commission, try to schedule it for the April meeting.
Are there any questions?
I had a question. So with regard to the 2 ordinances on the gift provisions, 01 and 02, that were ultimately not recommended to go forward, those will come off of this recommended list
Right.
and they won't be
Right.
part of the process going forward.
Yeah, we just wanted to provide a history on what we went through to see what made it, what didn't. And I know there was some direction by the board to draft it, and ultimately involved the conclusion that, well, we could do it at the local level. Why say green light here, but red light there? And then next thing you know, they come and say, but you told me I could do it. And we figured that just wouldn't be fair to the people that request an opinion.
And when I started this, I said, well, if I give you 3 and 4, you're going to ask me, well, where's 1 and 2? So I just gave you the whole story.
I have some sensitivity with respect to 112.326, which requires that this agency pass more stringent ethics requirements than the state law, but can't abrogate the state law. And so that was something that was part of the conversation with regard to those ordinances 1 and 2. And so I was pleased to see that the representation was that they weren't going to go forward, but I just wanted to confirm the purposes of 2025.
And we did discuss that, and didn't include that in my presentation, but yeah, we did talk about the more stringent requirement under statute.
Questions for Mr. Reed or Mr. Floyd on that? Okay. Moving on, we will go to legislative actions. Bring it back to you again.
So the legislature is in town. They have been here maybe 10 days. They will be here until the first week of May. So we'll continue to keep an eye on potential legislation that may or may not have an effect on us. We do know that there are two pieces of legislation that I believe were requested by the Florida Commission on Ethics. They are both proposed by Senator Don Gates, who was previously a senator and the Senate president. And during his time away from the legislature, he also was a member of the Florida Commission on Ethics. And the two bills are Senate Bill 348. And this bill would, well, the main reason that the bill was requested was to give some more teeth to the state commission on retrieving penalties. A lot of people would owe a penalty or fine, and then they would never hear from them again. So they wanted to put some teeth into that. But while they had this statute open, they created a whole new section, 112.3131, which deals with the issue of stolen valor, which is commonly in the news. When somebody misrepresents that they've either served in the military, they've received some type of decoration or a medal or an honor, or they have some type of specialty or qualification, like I'm a SEAL, I'm a Ranger, when they were just enlisted. And then there's been some case law at the federal level regarding on whether this would be a free speech issue or not. So there has to be a showing that there's a material gain by the person that misrepresents themselves. Brief history, there was a 2005 bill in Congress that passed. It was challenged. US v. Alvarez, they struck down the provision saying that misrepresenting military service was protected by the First Amendment. Legislature, that was 2012. The legislature came back a year or two later, reintroduced the legislation to, instead of making it a speech issue, make it a fraud issue. And that's why the showing of material gain is required. And that federal law has not been challenged in any court, so it's still the law of the land. So this legislation does model that same material gain requirement to kind of flow under what's already required under federal law. The bigger issue that I know they were really concerned with were the unpaid ethics fines. Right now, they engage, well, one, they create timelines on when they're due. They also engage the Attorney General's office. So the Attorney General first will make a determination on whether the person is a public employee or public officer. If they are, the Attorney General's office will confer with the CFO's office, as well as any governing body of the county, municipality, school district, or special district, to see about garnishing wages. They will do a salary withholding, kind of like you would almost see with a insurance or child support or whatnot, and they would go and they would take out a little bit of their paycheck in order to pay that fine. If they're not able to get it all through garnishment, they're also authorized to send it to a collections agency, and the Attorney General could also file civil litigation in order to receive that money. So that is Senate Bill 348. That does appear to be one of the top priorities of the State Commission on Ethics, and we'll keep you posted on how that continues to move forward. The other bill that they have is Senate Bill 352. This is a whistleblower statute. It creates a whole new section dealing with, creates whistleblower protections for people that file ethics complaints. So under 112.3187, you have to disclose specific information in order to be eligible for whistleblower protection. Malfeasance, misfeasance, gross neglect, etc. Filing a whistleblower or filing an ethics complaint may not meet one of those categories, you wouldn't be afforded the same whistleblower protection. So they have asked that the whistleblower protections be included under this new section so that if you do file an ethics complaint, you cannot be retaliated against. So it's very similar. It's almost, if you put it side by side, and I did bring 3187 as well as this new section, and it's just, it's every section is the same. It goes through, it just clearly mirrors the original, just really changes based on the nature of the disclosure. As far as it would apply to us, well, one, our ethics board, we don't receive the whistleblower complaints. However, the inspector general does, and it's something we probably always want to keep an eye on, but it has the same requirements that 3187 does, where if there is an administrative process that's been established by ordinance or a contract entered into between the municipality and DOA, then the individual is required to first exhaust those administrative remedies. Once those are exhausted and a final determination has been made, they have 180 days to file a civil claim in circuit court. If there are no procedures in place by the city, then they would have the ability to go straight to circuit court, and they would be required to do so in 180 days. And everything else is pretty much what we find in 3187. So those are the two big bills that they are dealing with. I wanted to go just real quick. I did look at anything that touched Chapter 112, Part 3. Kind of gets in our neighborhood, but doesn't necessarily arrive on our doorstep. But I did want to kind of go through those. A lot of them primarily deal with whistleblower. Like, again, it's not really within our realm, but still something worth keeping an eye on. One was this Senate Bill 7002. Usually when a number's that high, it means it's a committee bill that came from the Environmental and Natural Resources Committee. The chair is Ana Maria Rodriguez, senator from Doral or Miami. She's carrying the bill. It's made it through one of its 3 committee references. This bill has a lot of transparency language dealing with water management districts. Doesn't really have anything to do with what we deal with. However, it does add language to enforcement over restrictions on lobbyists or principals that lobby. Currently, a lobbyist or a principal that fails to register or knowingly submits false information in their lobbyist registration can be the subject of an ethics complaint. They added language that says now if they were to engage in a prohibited expenditure, that would also be grounds for an ethics complaint against that lobbyist, not against members of the Water Management District at this point. Another bill is and the House companion for that is House Bill 1169. That's been referred to 4 committees. It has not had a hearing. It's not scheduled at this time. Senate Bill 1760 deals with public officers and employees. Its House companion is House Bill 1445. The Senate bill has been referred to 3 committees, not had a hearing. It's not scheduled. This bill has essentially 2 requirements. One, it requires that state, well, it's 2.5, but state appointed officials, commission members, board trustees, et cetera, have to be U.S. citizens and Florida residents. It also requires if you're a department secretary or an executive director or a top administrative officer at a state agency, you must reside in the county where your department is headquartered. It would probably be Leon in most cases. And then the bigger issue is it defines the term office as used in Section 5A of Article 2 of the Florida Constitution, which is what prohibits dual office holding. And it provides a list that is not exhaustive of positions that which you cannot, you can't hold more than one office. And it goes through from governor, cabinet members, county commissioners, all the way to city managers and county municipal attorneys, which could get interesting. The House has been referred to 2 committees. It's had 1 hearing, but the sponsor of that bill is running in a special election to the Senate. So it's unclear who would carry that bill. Whether she wins or loses, she's going to be required to give up her seat as of April 1st. So we don't know what happens to that bill. Senate Bill 1066 and House Bill 997 deal with labor negotiations. Senator Blaise Ingoglia, Republican from Spring Hill, and Representative John Paul Temple, Republican from the Villages, have filed these bills. It essentially is very similar, and this actually does amend the ethics code within state statute. It creates a new section 112.3165, which makes it illegal for anyone participating in labor negotiations that are exempt from the Sunshine Law from disclosing any information obtained through that closed session without the express authorization of either the CEO or the governing body of the organization conducting those labor negotiations. It also mandates that anybody who receives that information has an obligation to immediately notify the Florida Commission on Ethics. That Senate bill's been referred to 3 committees, no hearing, not scheduled. House bill's been referred to 2 committees, no hearings, not scheduled at this time. A few more. There's an employment rights bill, Senate Bill 1776 by Senator Stan McLean, Republican from Ocala, and House Bill 1601 by Representative Chad Johnson, Republican of Newberry. The Senate bill has been referred to 3 committees. It's passed 1. House has been referred to 3 committees. It's not been passed or heard in any committees. It does touch on the Public Whistleblower Act, but spends most of its time amending the Private Whistleblower Act under Chapter 448. What it does do here is that's most significant for what we would see at the government level is it redefines the term independent contractor to not include an employer with 10 or more employees. So when you are granted whistleblower protection, you are granted protection against retaliation. This appears to exempt an independent contractor from that retaliation prohibition. So if there's an independent contractor that's contracting with the City of Tallahassee, currently they also fall under the Public Whistleblower Act. This would take them out of that. And now whether there could be other claims or not doesn't go into that, but it would change that definition. It then does a lot with the private. It changes the burden of proof to clear and convincing evidence to show that the individual properly notified a supervisor and gave the employer a right to correct the complained of action. It allows the employer to simply proffer an explanation on why an adverse action was taken, and then immediately that burden of proof shifts to the plaintiff or the employee to show that it was not pretextual. The part that kind of jumped out at me the most is this requires attorney's fees and court costs. It doesn't authorize the court to do so. It requires the court to do so. Whether that causes people to think twice about filing a claim, that could be concerning. And then it also says that if you can seek relief through a different statute, you are prohibited from acting under the Private Whistleblower Act. So there's a lot in that. A lot of it's in the private whistleblower, but it's still kind of worthwhile to look at, especially as far as the public whistleblower. Another one deals with financial disclosures. This just expands those that need to file a financial disclosure to members within the higher education system. And it also addresses term limits. State Board of Education members, as well as college and university board members, now will have term limits of 8 years, 2 consecutive 4-year terms. It also deals with the presidential search committees to include faculty, students, and community representatives. And then it eliminates the requirement for the State Board of Education to approve university or college presidents. And then, of course, it does require that these individuals now have to file a financial disclosure for full transparency. The Senate Bill 1726, sponsored by Senator Alexis Calatayud. I know I'm butchering that one. Republican from Miami. It's been 3 committee references, not been heard, and it's not scheduled. House Bill 1321, sponsored by Representative Michelle Salzman from Cantonment over in the Panhandle. It's referred to two committees, has not been heard yet, but it is scheduled for committee tomorrow. Then there are two other bills that are that don't appear to have any House sponsors. Senate Bill 860, political advertisements by government officials, and Senate Bill 926, public service announcements by state agencies, both filed by Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, Democrat from Orlando. And this really is a reaction to what we saw in the election. It prohibits government officials from pressuring broadcasters regarding whether they're going to air political advertisements or not. That was an allegation that came out during the last election. The other one would prohibit state agencies from using public funds to influence the outcome of statewide ballots. I brought these up because these issues, while the first one is a criminal issue, it does provide for administrative penalties to be imposed by the Florida Commission on Ethics, as does the 926, the use of public funds. The House bill that most closely resembles Senate Bill 926 is House Bill 727 by Representative Michelle Rayner, Democrat from St. Petersburg. It's similar, but that does not include the Commission on Ethics, so I didn't really include that as a bill that we would want to watch. So that is all I have.
Thank you for that. Very thorough.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Lets us know what's on the horizon for sure. Any questions for Mr. Reed on those?
Now, I will point out, he mentioned it to me in 1760. A lot of small towns have part-time attorneys. And you might have an attorney who works for more than one city as a city attorney. This will prohibit that. And so that could even impact us, but it inhibits a lot of cities. So we want to pay attention to that. But I thank John for doing the homework for me.
Enjoy this kind of stuff.
Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
No.
Right. As far as directive, the only one that I jotted down was to just meet with the city attorney and plan to move forward with those ordinances and getting them on the agenda for the commission. Any other directives for the staff?
Brian, see you on the.
Seeing none.
City.
Move to adjourn?
All right, Mr. Commissar moves
Second.
and Ms. Glinky seconds. We are adjourned at 4:41.
Right.